In a comment of a previous video, someone insinuated that I should really like Candace Owens because our politics align in some respects. Let me explain, probably for the last time, hopefully for the last time, my big issue with Candace Owens. Back before her notoriety as a conservative, she very clearly stated that she wanted to dox children doing this social autopsy thing. Now, all of that stuff aside, everything that's taken place since aside, when I am aware that somebody doesn't have a problem putting a child's personal information out on the internet for any old stranger to catch on to, I have a moral, I guess, problem with that. And I don't force my morals on others at all. But as far as the way I view a person, yeah, that's gonna cause a bit of a, like, hey, why would you be okay with that, you know? So when it comes to Candace Owens, I do respect the many lumps that she's taking, pushing a counter narrative to the my victimhood thing. You know, I couldn't be really more grateful than I can be. But in the back of my mind, there will always be that she's okay doxing children for, for profit, for gain. I can't let it, saying, like, remove. And whereas it's great to, like, she's always on television and always at these hearings and places like that, when it comes to the policies and the legislative work that needs to be done, I mean, I'm talking about at local levels, at a very local level, that's I guess she feels as if she's above it. So I don't really believe in just going in front of a bunch of people and lecturing. I believe in getting into the streets and doing what you can to help get people elected until they tell you that they're a communist. So So we have a video from The Blaze, which is another Candace Owens highlight, and we're gonna break it down. Let's go.
I just have to say that I object strenuously to your use of the word hilarious. To me, this feels a lot like your reaction to being named in one of these manifestos. Now, you're of course not responsible for the words of somebody writing that document, but I do think that laughing at it is a real problem, because these...
So what likely is that this 35%er right here, because yes, she is a 35%er. Like, Candace Owens' name has been involved when it comes, I think, was it the New Zealand shooter? I'm not sure. But one of the things that I am firmly against is holding one person accountable for the next person's actions. So this lady, all you hear her say is how she feels, and that's really just, what do I say all the time? Like, your feelings, check that shit, get out of them, because it's not very helpful as far as productivity goes.
There are real families that are impacted by this violence. And I think our efforts towards talking about this have to start from a place of mutual respect, which is what I've heard from this side of the table. Now, the reason we don't have those numbers, I want those numbers as much as you do, but to say the numbers don't show something is simply not supported by the data.
Okay, and I have 38 seconds left, Ms. Mulligan, if you want to respond within that time.
The only thing I would add is that it's in the name. Terrorism, domestic terrorism, it terrorizes us. It terrorizes...
You see, it's all chicks up here. Like, it's all females. Just, oh my goodness, I'm so scared. Terrorism, terror. Ooh. Like, I'm just saying. Like, if you really want to get people, what's the name? If you really want to get people riled up, I mean, you just toss out a bunch of chicks.
Us in our homes, it terrorizes...
No, not a 35%.
Us in our schools, and to the points made by the other panelists, it is disproportionate.
I do like her hair though. Like, it's reminding me of ramen noodle, and I think that's a really cool style.
To its impact on any individual life, and it's not...
You reject the idea it's something that doesn't matter, or it doesn't really matter?
Absolutely reject.
Okay. All right, so here's where we are. Every member now has had 5 minutes and...
I'll go ahead and claim my 5 minutes.
Okay, and Mr. Clay, so we have 2 members who have not. So I'm going to go to the 2 members who have not yet, and we'll give an opportunity for a closing thought to any member who wants before we go.
Am I next to respond, or is Mr. Meadows?
I thought Mr. Meadows was
Mr.
next.
Meadows, okay.
Mr. Meadows is next, then Mr. Clay, then to you, Mr. Jordan.
Ms. Owens, obviously this is a gang up on you. You know, we're giving these witnesses the ability to do a rebuttal on you, and so you know, I find it unfair, Ms. Ballou. I mean, you know, candidly, for you to show mutual respect and then you to go after Ms. Owens, it's not appropriate. So, Ms. Owens, you can have 4 minutes and 34 seconds to respond. However,
yield for a second.
I'll yield to the.
Thank you. I believe, Ms. Owens, when you used the word hilarious, it was referencing the fact that no one had asked you a question. It wasn't to the subject matter of the hearing. Is that right?
That is correct.
And to have another witness insinuate something that is not accurate is just not appropriate, Mr. Chairman, for how witnesses are supposed to behave in front of this committee. I also think you didn't say it doesn't matter about the subject matter of today's hearing. You said there are other subjects that matter as well, and maybe we should spend some time on those. Is that accurate?
That is correct, and they matter.
You hear all that mansplaining that he's doing? My goodness. But good on him for calling the girls out.
Or much, 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 much more. And I've said that. I said that in my opening, and I will say it again. You know that white supremacy and white nationalism is ranks nowhere near the top of the issues that are facing Black America. And the reason that you are bringing...
She's right. We've 900% increase in elected officials, black, quote unquote, black elected or elected officials of color, you know, quote unquote, and the police forces of these areas. I mean, you can't trust me. Newark just got finished with like almost an exclusively female cadet class of police. So yeah, to sit here and pretend as if, oh, you know, like how do I put it? Like white supremacy isn't 5 steps removed from hands-on urban Black America is it's antiquated thinking.
Them up in this room is because it is attempt to make the election all about race as the Democrats.
Not in my case, Ms. Owens. I'm sorry. Please do not characterize my...
Okay, so deal is like she goes into the whole Democrats thing, but when it comes to like just all of the labels, right, left, green, blue, purple, it's really the establishment and those who think that they're not establishment when they actually are, you know. So these entities, they use whatever they need to use in order to get done whatever they're trying to get done, you know. I feel like that's a little disingenuous for her to just like sit there and be like, oh, well, the Democrats. No, just like I would feel better if she was like, yeah, just the left side, you know, like, because that's the way I've broken it down, like, you know, left, right, red, blue team, red team, there it is. And like my man who's a communist, he's clearly on the blue team because of the connection, because of how close communism and socialism, liberalism, and all these other things have just combined, and that tends to form the Democratic ticket. So, you know.
Mr. Chairman, it's my time.
Yeah, you've got your time, Mr. Meadows. I'll give you 3 more seconds.
Every 4 years, you bring up race, and you knew exactly what I meant when I said hilarious, and you just tried to do live what the media does all the time to Republicans, to our president, and to conservatives, which you tried to manipulate what I said to fit your narrative, okay? I was not referring to the subject matter that is hilarious. I said it's hilarious that we are sitting in this room today, and I've got 2 doctors and a missus, and nobody can give us real numbers that we can respond to so we can assess how big of a threat this is, because you know that it is not as big of a threat as you are trying to make it out to be so that you can manipulate. And the audacity of you to bring up the Christchurch shooting manifesto and make it seem as if I laughed at people that were slaughtered by a homicidal maniac is, in my opinion, absolutely despicable. And I think that we should be above that.
See, so regardless of if she's willing to dox children, right? Like, still wouldn't want her words manipulated in such a fashion, and I wouldn't want anyone's words manipulated in such a fashion. But this is, and like I said, this isn't just a left or right thing. You know, the powers that be couldn't care less. It's about the dough to them. So it's about the money and keeping, you know, the class system as is. And instead of, you know, actually operating to enhance the class system, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and in a lot of ways, like, being poor in America is far better than being poor elsewhere. I like, at least to my knowledge, in my opinion, IMO, right? But the want to, you know, control and manipulate throughout the election cycle and push it on race is something that, yeah, the media, left and right media, does a lot. And they're still trying, and one of the things that we see, like through the Diddy Revolt thing, and through a lot of the Killer Mike stuff with Bernie Sanders and all, and BET and all this other fun stuff, is that they're trying to keep all of it in line. You know, it's just like, oh, come on, back to the plantation, niggas. You know, like, it's that's really what it's about, is trying to like get people back, like herd the cattle back into space and into place. And hopefully we're reaching a point where, yeah, the cattle is just going to keep running off.
I do assign reality or any meaning to a homicidal maniac writing a manifesto, which, by the way, let the record show, also stated Spyro the Dragon, the child's cartoon, as a source of inspiration.
It's a video game, darling. I mean, Spyro the Dragon is a video game. Okay, it's not a child's cartoon. It's like, see how indignant people get? Like, they just, like, okay, hey, I'm not a big, like, fan. I just know it's a game. Because it was out, like, in the 90s, if memory serves me correctly. And, but either way, take it easy on your condensation there, darling.
Also cited Nelson Mandela as a source of information. I don't think that Nelson Mandela has inspired mosque shootings. You can correct me if you think I'm wrong. You would rather assign meaning to a homicidal maniac than to actually address the things that I said today that are actually harming Black America. Number one, father absence. Number two, the education system and the illiteracy rate. Illegal immigration ranks high. Abortion ranks high. White supremacy and white nationalism, if I had to make a list again of 100 things, would not be on it. This here.
Yeah, so as far as like her number one, we got the same number one. Number two, lack of economic mobility. A lot of the areas and communities that where mostly Black and brown live, their urban spaces, and what took place during the 60s and 70s was the purposeful deterioration of the economic opportunities within these spaces. So basically, hey, if you want to do something, you got to get the hell away from these areas if you want to do it legally above board. Everything else is just like, the drug war and the no man and the house rule and stuff like that. And number three is the court system, is the family court system, and the welfare state in general. I am all for just dismantling that entire thing. The whole welfare state can go. Let's make sure that employers are compensating employees in at a commensurate rate, to whereas the fathers have opportunities to actually raise a nuclear family. Like, I really feel like that's my top three. Where our number one, rocking together. Our number two and threes, a bit different, because when it comes to education, people have used education as a bludgeon, like they've completely dismantled the thing. You got public schools, charter schools, and they robbed Peter to pay Paul. They destroyed the public schools via lack of funding and other small things that ended up adding up, which created a quote unquote need for charter schools, which is basically private education coming in. And really, it is what it is, because when it comes to children, the home is the most important thing. What the ability of the ability and the environment, the ability of the parents and the environment in which they come up in are so huge, and we've purposefully poisoned these environments. And so one of the things that always used to like irritate me when people would, be in Newark and this part of Essex County is that they're like, man, you just got to take a nuclear bomb to it. And sometimes, some days I'm like, maybe they got a point.
In my opinion, is a farce. And it is ironic that you're sitting here and you're having 3 Caucasian people testify and tell you what their expertise are. Do I know what my expertise are? Black in America. I've been black in America my whole life.
Well, I mean, let's be real, darling. We all have, and like as far as that, like their expertise. I mean, they've been sitting in some college room, just getting government money and grants to say, oh yeah, I have a degree and I don't need no man and stuff like that. And it's part of that poison of which I speak with it. Like where we got the government with all these bureaucratic jobs and this nonsense college work, quote unquote work, where they get to become professors and oh yeah, I'm gonna stay in academia and basically take government money to bullshit, okay, and come up with all these different ideas and themes and whatnot, what have you. And so as far as it being Caucasian ladies, hey, their race doesn't matter. The fact that they're all chicks actually does way more. So, oh man, I know I'm sounding a bit sexist, guys, but we're looking at the facts, okay? We're looking at the facts, and that's about it for this. Oh, wait a second, I'm just noticing the position in which I left Candace Owens' face. Yeah, we'll leave it there. So, with that being said, all the internet stuff, if you liked it, toss it a like, dislike, yeah, go ahead, do that too. I'm not scared of you. Sub if you enjoy my fantastic voice and you want to get videos like this every single day. Share, because sharing is caring, and YouTube and BitChute and the like. I mean, they can do what Candace looks like she's doing right now. And speak, let me know, what do you think in the comments? You know, like, am I wrong for just for keeping my guard up in terms of her because of, you know, what I've seen her willing to do, which is just something I find irrehensible, because I don't think children should be on the internet in the first place. But but we have a ton of terrible parents out there. So if your kid is on the internet, I still don't think that they should be they should have their information put out there at all. Keep them as far away from this shit as possible. But you may feel differently, and that's maybe something that you could look past. So if you can, by all means, let me know in the comments, and until the next one.